Well, in order to do something differently, we have to be able to see it differently. And that's always starts with us. So anytime we want to become more empowered and more proactive and get better results in our life, we really need to be able to pause and like I said, get curious. So new information coming in at us requires us to need to really reflect on that.
Welcome to the Initiative One Leadership Podcast, where we help leaders maximize their impact and transform their lives. I'm your host, Nick Nighbor, as well as the VP of Strategic Partnership right here at Initiative One. And today's guest is Regina Woods. Regina is the Director of Operations as well as a transformation leader right here at Initiative One. And we're so excited to have you on the show. Welcome, Regina.
Thank you, Nick. I'm happy to be here.
Yes, and just this short while that I've been at Initiative One, it's been such a pleasure working with you because I'm going to start here really quick. A little bit of a change. What is your 2-word purpose?
My 2-word purpose is illuminating essence.
Illuminating essence, and it's hard for me to get that out of my mind with what you do here at Initiative One and connecting that 2-word purpose. I really see that you are in a place where you can absolutely impact individuals and organizations. It's a shoe that fits so well with you because you're doing such great work, but you have a passion for it.
Thank you.
Is that accurate?
Yes, I think it is a good fit.
Okay. So, and right back for me, like I feel the same way, like right where I'm at and helping people, leaders and organizations, and just in a different aspect. But it's been a pleasure working alongside you and you impacting the people just on a daily basis. It's just been really, really cool to see.
Likewise.
So as a transformation leader at Initiative One, what you do is you work with leaders. They might not necessarily all be leaders, but they're in organizations, and these organizations or individuals say, you know what, I want to take that next step in leadership. I want to work on myself. Mm-hmm. What have you been seeing recently?
Boy, I don't know if I'm going to attribute it to the full moon or just the fact that we're all human beings. But one thing that I've been seeing lately is how people just have this tendency to be so reactive to the stories we're carrying that we're not even aware of.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is you're hearing people like they're identifying that, or you're seeing that they're identifying that, or they have no clue?
Well, it goes back to my 2-word purpose on illuminating essence. And as someone's talking to me, because in addition to our leadership transformation process, we also do coaching.
Okay.
And a lot of times people are stuck.
Mm-hmm.
And what they're not aware of, because they're often reacting out of an emotional place, and this is how we think it goes as humans. We have a situation that happens.
Okay.
And we have a feeling about it.
Okay.
In reality, we have a situation that happens. We tell ourselves a story about it, and we're most times not aware of that story. And then we have a feeling about it and, react to it, usually in an unhelpful way when we're responding in a triggered manner. So I was talking to one of our clients, very, very passionate about what they do, the organization they work for, talk about an organization making great impact. So what a blessing it is for me to be able to impact that team, to be able to, even help them be more impactful in their work. And the person kept repeating this story and repeating this story. And when you're emotional and you start talking about this and you kind of go over there, well, they did that. And they were telling the same story, but they weren't aware of this at all. They were just upset and were having this interpersonal conflict with someone that was going on for months. And, they became more and more and more exasperated and almost to the point of hopeless. Like, I'm just going to throw my hands up and give up. And so in terms of illuminating essence, it really was my opportunity to have that person pause and help them see the story they were telling themselves, because they tell me what happened with this person they were in conflict with, and then they would, become very upset about it. And I said, do you hear the story you're telling yourself? And after I helped that person understand that subconsciously they kept telling themselves a story, kind of like a tape or a recording continually playing in their mind. And they're like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. And I said, is that story real? Is that story true? And they're like, I guess not. I said, well, so, that's the power of our mind. We're such incredible storytellers, and we don't even know it, because we're just having something happen and respond and, living in that reactionary mode. So being able to help somebody pause and really understand the true reason they're behaving like they are. And, that was such an empowering moment for that person to say, wow, I didn't realize I kept telling this story about this person that I work with. And interestingly, the story linked back, because one of the models we teach in our leadership transformation process is an iceberg. And there's so much that goes on below the surface subconsciously. And this person's family of origin and an impact moment in their life really ultimately created that story. And, here's a person at work representing that situation. And they started retelling a story that they had told themselves many, many, many moons ago, many years ago. And now they're at work reacting to this person as if that person's the character in a story they told themselves a long time ago. And it was so liberating for this person to be able to realize, and I equate it to having a remote. Say you're watching a movie, we all have a remote that we're not even aware of, that they just had this story, this movie in their mind, just on replay. So no matter what this person did at work, that story, they were feeding themselves that story and always looking at that person through those lenses. And it wasn't helpful. It wasn't helpful to them because they were in a chronically upset state. It wasn't helpful to the other person because we never could give them the benefit of the doubt. So how powerful it was and empowering to help that person see, to illuminate the essence of what's really going on here. Because they had such wonderful feedback. And I said, you have such wonderful feedback that could be a gift to this person that you're not sharing because you are looped in this story. And at that moment, that person was able to flip that story into something more helpful and, more importantly, more real. To be able to look at the situation, to be able to look at their role in it. Because one of the models we teach, as you know, is 100% responsibility. And when we tell an unhelpful story that we're not even aware of about someone else, we neglect often to take 100% responsibility ourselves.
That absolutely happens. If we attach it, and I like the remote analogy that you have there, as soon as that incident or circumstance or situation happens and you go to that story, as soon as you start doing that, you're pointing away from yourself.
Yes.
And that is not healthy.
Yes.
And what is it? You said the human mind is a powerful, it's very powerful. And what I've learned myself is we can be very unkind to ourselves.
Yes.
So the story that we tell ourselves, if Nick told 10 stories to himself, 9 of them would be bad news.
Yes.
They would say, okay, this is going to happen, and this is going to happen, and this is going to happen, and oh, this could happen, but chances are this is going to happen, and it's a negative experience. So that is, thank you for sharing that. Did you know we help leaders and organizations build trust, reduce drama, and create healthy work cultures? Each month, we host a leadership event called the Think Tank, and this is where we discuss leadership challenges and topics in the workplace. Join us in person or online. Go to initiative1.com to register. You answered my secondary follow-up question with telling me the impact, but wow, you liberated them by, would you say you told them that, going back to that actual conversation, did they self-discover, or do you think you told them? Because there's an impact on both.
Yes, and I would say they liberated themselves. They liberated themselves from their own story, and it's just a matter of asking questions. Mm-hmm. Is that true? Oh, that's not true, because they just kept saying the same thing over and over again. And I said, hang on, is that true? Well, yeah, because, is that true? Oh, I guess not. So, yeah, and with that remote, you have the ability to change the channel at any point. Mm-hmm. But in order to do that, we have to raise our self-awareness. Mm-hmm. And that's so much of what our leadership process does. It really helps people pause personally, mm-hmm. and reflect in ways that they often just don't get a chance to because we're so busy going about our life. So it's that ability to say, okay, there I am telling myself a story. Because when we have a strong reaction to something, that's our ability right at that moment to pause and go, what story did I tell myself that created that reaction? And that's really where our personal power is. Mm-hmm. And we always have that ability to change the channel and pick a more empowering story.
And when something happens, we've heard Dr. Fred talk about this, you always get what you look for.
Yes.
So that story, even though, and correct me if I'm wrong, that story, as disempowering as it is, it's so comfortable.
It is.
Am I right?
It is. And I love the word comfortable, because when people come into our leadership process, they think they're getting, me being the sage on the stage with PowerPoints behind me, being the talking head. And our process can be uncomfortable. And that's good, because sometimes it feels safe to be stuck in our own stories. And because that's giving us something that's, and so many of us have learned that disempowerment is safe, because then I don't have to look at myself. I don't have to take any of that personal accountability. So absolutely, then the fingers go outwards. So what I love about our leadership process is that it creates that healthy discomfort to be able to lean in and examine, where's my opportunity to lean in as a person and as a leader.
And would you say that whether it's someone that's running a company or simply someone that just started their first job out of college, would you say everyone has a story? Everyone has that story?
Oh, yes. We all have stories.
We all have stories.
We do, because
I'm listening.
Any human being has a story, because as we're children, just think about it. We don't have that ability then to often analyze. And so our little minds are interpreting our world around us. And some of those stories get locked into place. And are they real? And, those stories may have helped keep us safe as a child, right? Mm-hmm. But as an adult, when we carry those around, they limit our ability to be successful. And by success, I mean our ability to really use our influence in a helpful way.
The leadership transformation process for Initiative One, and I've heard this speak just, really through our language, that most people do want better results, right? Whether it's leading a company or just themselves. Hey, I want to be in a better place in 12 months. You need new information mm-hmm. to do that. You need to have different behaviors to do that. And that's really what brings that about. So could you help explain how that leadership transformation process helps with those first two, the information and then the behaviors.
Yes. Well, in order to do something differently, we have to be able to see it differently. And that's always starts with us. So anytime we want to become more empowered and more proactive and get better results in our life, we really need to be able to pause and like I said, get curious. So new information coming in at us requires us to need to really reflect on that and to integrate it. Mm-hmm. So I think our leadership process allows people that opportunity to hear from others, because we have cohorts. You know, we have mixed group cohorts where that's a unique experience to work with people from all different backgrounds. And it always fascinates me when people sit down and, you know, talk about the stories. Even driving to class, it's like, okay, what's this going to be about, you know? And usually even after the first day, people's checkout are, wow, we're just all people in this together. Doesn't matter your title. It doesn't matter your background. It's like, wow, you too, you know? So that's pretty cool to be able to hear from not only us and learn about our leadership models. It's really to learn from each other.
And I'm going to share with you something that I've learned, I think, over the last 2 to 3 months. I'm naturally a learner. Like, I love to read. I love to just review and reflect. And you've gotten to know me.
That's an understatement, but
it's an understatement. So I'm a learner. Yeah. And there is, or we'll say there was a point in time that like, I ate that up. And it was like on an individual basis. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I'm reading, I'm journaling, I'm doing all these things. And like, that's good. It's good. Like, I think you need to like start somewhere. Right. And I thought that was the top. Like, I'm doing something amazing. And as I've gone through the leadership transformation process, one of the most powerful things that I've learned is learning together. Learning together. I've learned so much. Like, I can read a chapter, I can listen to an audiobook, like I can do those things. Right. But if I'm not sharing that information and other people are consuming that information and we're talking about that information, it's good. It's good. Right. I know most people aren't that. So doing that it's good. But when you can engage with a group that's investing and consuming that same information, and then you come around a table and you ask, what did you get from that section? Mm-hmm. And I learned more from that feedback from the group than I actually did from the chapter, because that was already like a muscle that I've already built. Does that make sense what I'm saying, Regina?
It does, because that goes back to what I was saying, you know, and people sometimes go, why does a counselor need a counselor? Or why does, you know, someone who does coaching for a living need a coach? And it's that ability, you know, we're not aware we're stuck. We're not aware we're being myopic and only seeing it one way. So being able to hear it from other people is such a gift. And, you know, one of the signature things with our leadership transformation process is we do a checkout. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I often ask, what's front of mind? What do you want to remember 6 months from now? And we have people list that. And it's often, it's not what comes out of my mouth. It's often what comes out of each other's mouths. Like, wow, that is a healthy way to look at that. I never thought of it that way. So there's such power in learning together.
And you can identify, or you can have people across the table from you help you. It's not like, hey, Regina, this is the story. Like, you're not going to accept that very well.
No.
But if you have other people around the table say, hey, have you thought about this? Yes. Or, you know what, I was there 2 years ago and this is what I learned. And then we can start to, when we can come up with our own solutions with self-understanding, when we can do that, it's so much easier to make a pivot and a change.
Well, right. I mean, we all know we're supposed to exercise 3 times a week. Or,
Are we?
Well, for you it's more, but, drink, X amount of water and, all of that. Well, we all know that as humans, but knowing isn't always doing.
Correct. And knowing and not doing is actually not knowing.
Better yet.
Right? Honestly.
Yes.
I know that, but you're not doing it, Nick. Okay. I guess I don't know it. So this is cool. So back to that story that we're telling ourselves. This was done as you were coaching an individual through our leadership transformation process.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. There is some of the teams that we work with, they have the wonderful gift of being able to come together as an intact team and go through our leadership transformation process. We have mixed groups, which is a whole different experience. And we have intact teams. So this was someone in an intact team.
It was.
And
okay.
this team, I would say, was in crisis. And, there's different levels, different needs teams come in with. And this team in particular barely could look at each other across the table. And this was kind of their last ditch effort to come together. So that coaching session was outside of our leadership transformation process. And it was invaluable because I don't know that without those personal insights and understanding how powerful our stories are, I don't know sometimes that people and teams can move forward in the way that they want, because we can all try to behave differently. But if we're still operating from that same story, from that same narrative, we're ultimately going to get the same results.
Right. So that person had they felt of tremendous impact.
Yes.
Tell me the impact it made on you.
Oh, well, that's a good question. The impact it made on me was just really reaffirming to me that the work that we do here is making an impact. And that conversation ended with a hug and joyful tears, almost liberated tears. I drove home and my heart literally felt warm. Like this is why we're doing what we're doing. And that conversation took a while and it wasn't even planned. It wasn't even planned. And that was probably the most rewarding part of my week.
How cool is that? Yeah. And that just goes back to our point, how we opened this. Like where you're at and helping people is exactly where you should be.
Thank you.
So thank you for sharing. I really appreciate that, Regina. This has been really, really good in terms of just hearing that impact. Because leadership, I mean, it can get stuffy and boring and booksy and, research, but you're sharing the heart of someone that had a breakthrough, and you can't attach a price tag to that.
Right. And we talk about leadership is who you are, not what you do. And those impactful moments that people have, those insights, that helps them be a better them. And I think that just spills out to everyone that they touch and impact too.
Right. Well, thank you again for coming on the show.
You're welcome.
Sharing this example, letting us know and letting the audience know that, hey, if I have a story, I'm not the only one. Everyone has a story. And I hope those stories are impactful for you. I hope this interview, I hope this was impactful to you, because you might be telling yourself a story, but you're not sure of it. But maybe this episode helped with that. Like, you know what? Maybe I'm telling myself a story and it ain't helping. The best thing that I can recommend is really next month, and I guess let me introduce this correctly, is every month we put on a leadership event here at Initiative One, in person and virtually. Here in January, we had several hundred people log in. We have our physical location here in Green Bay, and we also have a satellite location in Knoxville, Tennessee. as well as several hundred people tuning in from multiple states all over the country. And if you're new to Initiative One and you're just hearing this podcast or seeing this for the first time, you're not sure who we are, register for one of our think tanks. Go to our website, initiative1.com/events, and register for that event. There's no cost to attend. And you're going to get to see more examples of stories like this that Regina had shared that can bring more value to you. So make sure that you go ahead and register for that next event. We welcome you into our community. We're a leadership community. We're a growing community, and we want to hear from you. So we all grow together. Iron sharpens iron. If you loved this episode and you found great value in it, leave us a rating, leave us a review. By leaving a rating and leaving a review, that helps us reach more people. So if you feel inclined to leave a rating and review, please do so. If you found value in this about Regina's story, about someone else's story or your story or my story or whoever's story it is, if you found value and you resonated with this, go and share this with someone that you know. Go ahead and just share that right in your phone and send it off to 1 or 2 people, because we want to impact more and more people every single day. So thank you so much for listening in, watching in, and remember, leadership isn't what you do.
It's who you are.
Thank you, Regina.
Thank you, Nick.